Good morning, Dwayne. We are Team 3, and we are doing the cutting and palletizing like you were just asking about. There we go. So our subsystem consists of slicing the bricks to their dimensions, and then also the palletizing methods. So we have two ideas for how we're going to cut them to dimensions. This first one acts kind of like an egg slicer. So you have a bunch of wires, and your slicer will come down on a hinge. It folds down in between the rollers, so you can go all the way through the clay material. Then our second design is also a method where you push it through wires, except you'll have a lever arm, and essentially the bricks will come in and then be pushed through. We decided to investigate this design due to its simplicity. There's a lot less moving components, and manufacturing it in Uganda might be a lot easier.
So the assumptions we were testing, the main thing with that one design where the big log continues on rollers and the slicer comes down on it, we were worried if the bricks would deform from the rollers when the wires come down, and also since there isn't really support under them, if the wires would drag the clay down. But it seemed like, and the next assumption was what is the best method for securing the slicing wires. But the last team that presented, we kind of liked their idea, so we might end up going with that one. We had some other ideas as well. But so this is our test prototype. We just screwed down some PVC pipes to a piece of wood and had a brick on the PVC. And we brought down the slicer at an angle, and it seemed like it cut through pretty easy. And there was like a little bit of deformation, but we were thinking also as the bricks continue off the rollers, it's going to flatten those deformations back out, like from the wire slicer, and it didn't seem like there was any real divots from the pipes or from the rollers. But that's something we were going to kind of ask you about if you would be okay with that, or we should go with the other option for cutting on a flat table. So the wires made a smooth cut, and we still need to look at a better way to tighten the wires down, because in our prototype we just used a wing nut and wrapped it around, but we didn't get enough tension because we were just pulling on it and tightening it down. So I think Tim might have had a better idea on how to do that.
I guess real quickly, because I also liked the other group's tensioning idea as well. My idea was just do something similar to a nylon string guitar, where you'd have a bolt with a hole through it that you would spin the bolt to grit the tension and then lock it down with a nut on the other end. However, I'm not sure if that's as good of an idea as what that group came up with, so we might just go with their idea. So our biggest feature consideration is what happens after the bricks are cut. Right now we'll have that kind of log of brick come in, we'll cut it into the multiple individual brick sizes. We'll need to have it go down what was originally developed as a ramp. And we were thinking about if we wanted to keep it as a ramp or maybe make it a very slow, like a very low angle roller ramp essentially. But what we didn't know is, are they going into a cart then? Or will it be put onto a hand truck to put into a kiln? Will it just be left to air dry? And so because of that, we've got left just a few questions of, do we need our end ramp to just, should it just stay level? Should it be an actual ramp? Should it be adjustable if you had like a very low cart, or if you had like a high waist height cart? Other things to consider that we were wondering is, will we have somebody just taking the bricks physically and stacking them onto a cart, or would they want them to kind of like slide down onto a cart where we would need like a roller ramp type end piece after being cut? So those are kind of questions we kind of leave for you, is what did you want the final outcome of the bricks to be, because we felt that we didn't know if we were just going to purchase like an industrial cart, something like that, or if we needed to make something a little bit more specific. Okay.
I will. I'll have to change some of that down a little bit, and kind of see. You know, some of it depends on how we're going to transport it and what we're going to do with it. Like you're saying, for cooling, for drying. So going back to the slicer, one thought that I had for us is that, you know, if we've got this slicer coming down like that one there, is there a way for us to attach maybe the outside arms to something, a rod that comes down to a foot device, maybe it's spring action, so it actually wants to spring itself back up, and then I'm using my feet to push it through instead of my hand. I don't know, that's a thought.
So make it like a stomp shear? Like a stomp shear, essentially, for sheet metal?
No, I'm just wondering if, maybe not, maybe this is fine. And I suppose, you know, if it got a little weary on a worker, we could just, you know, change shifts. But a thought for us, I know you're going to consider it, I'm sure, but is the rigidity of that device and, you know, how strong it's got to be, the sizing of the tubing, so it won't, you know, so it'll last really well. So that's a thought on that. And I'm still kind of, I don't, you know, we've got clay coming out of the, you know, theoretically we've got clay coming out of the machine continuously, right? So then how do we, you know, how do we get some of that out of the way, because it's still coming out. So we get a big log cut, and then we move a big log down, and then we cut that. I suppose when we get that big log out of the way, it gives room for the next log to come out and get ready to get cut. So maybe timing-wise, we've got plenty of time there to kind of get all that sliced and cut.
Yeah, in some videos we saw online, they were using the other method where they were like pushing it through, and so I think when it comes out of the extruder and they cut it, they can slide it down on the rollers faster than it's coming out of the extruder.
Yeah.
So it just makes like a gap there, and then you can, in the meantime, you can do that, and then the next one will come
Okay.
on.
So I know on the slicing thing, you know, we don't want a lot of deformation for sure. And since they're still a little bit moist, maybe they would kind of settle back into, you know, if there's a little bit of deformation, maybe it'll kind of settle back into, we just have to experiment with that. I will work a little bit on, so I'll get back to your instructor with maybe some thoughts on how we're going to deal with this in Uganda. So if we're going to palletize it real quick, or what we're going to do with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.